As of 2024, Apple is currently the wealthiest company in the entire world, with a total net worth roughly equivalent to the entire of the UK at $3 trillion. I'm sure dystopian sci-fi films such as Blade Runner and more have all painted a disturbing picture of futuristic alien cities dominated solely by oppressive corporations more powerful than entire governments. And as tech giants like Apple, Google, and Elon Musk only continue to grow in power, what was once simply fiction suddenly seems far more real. What if I told you that in reality the companies we refer to as empires today do not even come close to the wealthiest company that ever existed? It was not born in an endless summer like Metropolis, but rather the humble, flat countryside of Northern Europe. That's right. I am talking about the notorious Dutch East India Company, or VOC for short. Throughout the 17th century, the VOC dominated international trade all the way from Europe to Japan. In fact, the VOC had a net worth of 78 million Dutch guilders, which is equivalent to $7.9 trillion, more than the GDP of modern-day Japan and Germany combined. This company was so powerful, making that it could rival the power of governments with the ability to wage war, establish colonies, negotiate treaties, and even to imprison and execute convicts. In fact, many consider the VOC to be the world's first international company. Between 1602 to 1796, the VOC sent a combined total of over 1 million men to work in Asia. By contrast, the rest of Europe combined only sent a total of 800,000 men to work in Asia between 1500 to 1796. So how did this tiny and insignificant nation create the largest trade empire the world had ever seen? In order to understand how this empire came to power, we'll need to travel back in time to 1580. During this time, the Netherlands were at war with Spain and Portugal due to attempted Spanish colonization in the Netherlands. After 1591, the Portuguese used the German city of Hamburg for the distribution of trade, and hence got the Dutch out of the trade ring. All the while, the demand for spice had continued to grow, while the Portuguese traders were unable to supply this demand, which caused an increase in demand for spices. Due to these factors, many Dutch merchants began to consider entering the international spice trade, and soon they would do just that, with eyes set on the port of Banten in modern-day Java. The first major Dutch expedition was led by Frederick von Holtmann in 1595. 12 crew members were killed in the Javanese attack, and they even killed the local ruler at Madura. Even before the crew began their journey home back to the Netherlands, half of them were already dead. But fortunately, the survivors made it home to Amsterdam with a considerable profit. Following this voyage, numerous independent Dutch sailors began to set their course towards the east, looking to tap into this new and spicy market. In 1598, Jacob van Neck and his fleet of 8 ships successfully reached what was considered to be the Spice Isles of Indonesia, successfully cutting out the Javanese middlemen. During this time, an exhibition would normally be a one-time thing, and then after it was over and profit was secured, the crew of the ship would be liquidated, and that's only if the crew survived in the first place. Piracy, shipwrecks, and disease all posed massive threats to sailors, and that's not even mentioning the prices of spices could vary greatly. In other words, traveling across the entire world in a wooden sailing ship was a fucking nightmare to put it mildly. The counter-strategy was the formation of cartels to control the supply. The English were the first to adopt this in 1600, and soon the Dutch would follow by the creation of the United East Indies Company in 1602. The company soon continued to do what it did best, by selling prices to the Mughal Empire at 14 times the price they had paid for it in Indonesia. In 1603, company seized control of the Santa Catarina off the coast of Singapore. She was so filled with wealth that the profits captured from her increased the profits of the VOC by, get ready for this, 50%. Obtaining all this wealth wasn't easy. People died over time from a whole number of causes, from disease, exhaustion, scurvy, shipwrecks, or even to other people. What was life like for your average Dutch sailor aboard a VOC voyage? The job was incredibly dangerous and physically demanding. A large number of overseas sailors of the VOC never saw the green pastures of the Netherlands ever again. But to many, it was the only chance they would ever get to experience the world beyond Amsterdam or a tiny little village. But the promise of riches and treasure drew in many of those stricken with poverty. Finding work with a VOC was fairly easy, as a VOC tended to often target those poorer members of society who would be more desperate for work and wouldn't be deterred by the dangers of the high seas. As a sailor, you would be trapped in overcrowded and harsh conditions, in which any free space was granted the same function as a toilet. Food was always poor in quality, and water was so utterly filthy that sailors tended to drink their grog instead, which was high in salt, and hence only added to their dehydration. If you survive a voyage, sometimes lasting up to 5 years, company would compensate you very highly, and if you died, then that money would go towards your family. Between 1602 to 1790, million men sailed to the VOC. However, only 340,000 returned back to the Netherlands. Some sources state that 4,000 men a year died while working in the VOC. While exceedingly wealthy, the VOC was certainly no stranger to slavery and violence against indigenous populations. In 1621, after the people of the Banda Islands refused to trade Namibia, the Dutch launched a full invasion of the islands. Over 1,700 were enslaved, while the remaining 14,000 were killed or fled. The population of the islands before the arrival was 15,000. After the Dutch arrived, it is estimated that only 1,000 remained. An average home of VOC would most likely never even have heard of Japan before. To an average Dutch peasant born into a small village and recruited into the VOC, there was nothing more mythical and mysterious than that land of the Far East, and with good reason. For 217 years, from 1603 to 1868, Japan was officially closed off from all outside contact. The VOC were the only people allowed in or out of Japan to trade. In 1543, the Portuguese arrived in Japan for the first time. This was the first time Japan had ever had contact with the Western world. The Portuguese attempted to spread Christianity among the Japanese, which eventually resulted in the Portuguese being expelled from Japan after the Shimabara Rebellion in 1539. The Dutch arrived in 1600 aboard the ship known as the Liefde. They arrived in the coast of Bungo, now known as Uski. The Dutch initially established a trading outpost at Hidalgo. After the Portuguese were expelled, the Dutch outpost was moved to the artificial island, Dejima. Dutch architecture can still be seen around Japan, especially in areas like Nagasaki, and even in modern-day Japan. There's even a modern-day Dutch theme park called Huistenbosch, styled after a typical Dutch town. The VOC eventually met its end in 1799 due to a wide variety of complex factors they had little control over. Due to changes in political and economic environments, debts, and a bad reputation due to the high mortality rates, the once mighty Dutch East India Company was beginning to decline. Soon, it had lost trade in Persia, the Malabar coast, and Bengal. However, the VOC still remained in power, maintained its extensive trade empire. Unfortunately, the Anglo-Dutch Wars were a final killer blow to the VOC. The fleet was cut in half. The company lost 43 million Dutch guilders. In 1796, the former board of directors of the VOC was sacked, and eventually, the company was formally dissolved on the 31st of December, 1799. Most of the company's former territories and wealth were inherited by the British. The VOC was the wealthiest company that ever existed, and since then, the companies of the modern age have yet to overtake their wealth. Various factors can be argued contributed to their wealth, such as a lack of workers' unions and workers' rights, which allowed the workers to be exploited and being abused to the maximum. Terrible for the workers, but fantastic for profit. Others may argue that being some of the earliest Europeans in Asia helped to tap into a new market never seen before. The VOC company was essentially an empire, and although we may still fear the might of megacorps today, one may easily forget that compared to Apple and Microsoft, we are still trivial in comparison to the Dutch East India Company. Am I the only one who wants a TV series which follows the voyage of a group of VOC sailors all the way from the Netherlands to Japan, and maybe even beyond? Who knows? If there's any movie directors watching this, you know, why did you go make it already? Anyway, thank you very much for watching this video if you've made it this far, and I'll see you next time.